About a year ago, I took the online course at Yale called The Science of Well-Being. And this course was focused on happiness, the good life, and what are intentional activities we can do on a daily basis to help us increase our well-being. This course also took some time to focus on some of the myths and misconceptions around happiness and really showed how we have a really ill-perceived idea of what creates happiness within our lives. I was inspired by this, and I thought to myself, I gotta share this. I gotta teach this to other folks, and more importantly, I gotta incorporate this new information into my daily work as a pre-service school counselor. So I dived into the research, and I found glaring statistics like these, that 36% of Americans last year self-reported experienced extreme loneliness on either a daily or frequent basis. What's more serious and more concerning is that 61% of this 36 were young adults around the age of 18, folks getting ready to graduate high school and go on, many of which who will go on to study at a college or university next fall. And so this has serious implications for the work of K through 12 school counselors, as well as mental health support staff at the higher education level. I was having a conversation with my boss the other day, and so I asked, "How was your day?" And he responded to me that he doesn't like that question because it's an ungenuine question. And it's hard to encapsulate all of the ideas and emotions one goes through throughout the day into a single word response. Because usually when you ask this question, you get the answer, "It was fine, it was good," an ungenuine answer for an ungenuine question. See, if I had asked my boss, "What got you excited to get out of bed this morning and come to work today?" Or, "Tell me about something that made you laugh throughout the course of this day." Or if I asked, "What's something troubling you? What can I do to help this week?" Those are more genuine questions that elicit a more genuine response. The last part I want to talk about here is this idea of a counselor's dilemma. Me and my graduate colleagues go to class every day after we get out of internship, and we do hard work. We talk about students in crisis. We talk about suicide, abuse, harassment, addiction. And these are challenging conversations, and we engage in these challenging discussions because we know that one day when we're in the field, we're going to have these conversations with our students, our families, and our colleagues. And so this was a dilemma for me because I found a lot of purpose and meaning to this work in helping students, but I kept thinking to myself, there's got to be something more. I got into education to inspire and to lead young adults, to lead children into becoming bright, contributing future citizens in our global community. But this was a challenge because loneliness, ungenuineness, and a large heap of dilemmas stood in my way. And it created this new norm where we defaulted to not being okay rather than defaulting to being good, to being happy. And so I got to work. I got to work in learning, in researching, in teaching positive psychology, a field, a subset of psychology that is focused on well-being as opposed to psychological dysfunction or crisis. And so I teamed up with one of my mentors at the University of Connecticut, and we proposed a new course called Defining Happiness. Within the first 13 hours of this course being open, it was full. There was such a demand for enrollment in this new course that we had to offer a second section specifically geared towards international students. And this really showed me that young adults are passionate and curious about happiness and what creates well-being, what creates a good life. And these are some of the many things that we talk about in our class that we're currently teaching. We talk about the misconceptions of barriers to happiness. We talk about some of the theoretical approaches. We talk about the fiscal cost of happiness, the relationship between income and well-being. We talk about how happiness is something that could be researched and measured and quantified. We talk about love and healthy relationships, loneliness, social isolation, and we even touch upon how happiness can be viewed in a multicultural perspective and how various social identities can restrict and create barriers for happiness. And so this is a lot of work that we laid out for ourselves for our 14-week course. And as it's nearing its completion, I'm even more passionate about teaching and instilling some of these really great positive psychology mindset ideas within students. Some of the groundwork that we instill into our curriculum and into our course is from some of the leading positive psychologists today. Sonia Lewandowski, in her book, The How of Happiness, suggests that up to 40% of our happiness is within our control. And so we use that and we go into class every day with the belief and the conviction that happiness and our well-being is within our power to change. Dr. Martin Seligman, who's one of the founding fathers of positive psychology, says in his new theory of well-being that every decision we make, we do so with the decision that, and the knowledge and the realization that it will one day increase our well-being. And some of the defining contributing factors to well-being lie within his PERMA model: positive emotions, engagement, positive relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And so I don't only teach this in a lecture hall to my UConn students, I incorporate the ability and capacity to change happiness, and I incorporate Martin Seligman's PERMA model into my daily work in counseling and my internship fieldwork experience. With my students, we talk about positive relationships and who is surrounding them and who is motivating them and mentoring them and inspiring them. We talk about meaning and accomplishment and finding purpose, setting goals for ourselves for the next month, for the next year, for the next 5 years. What are things that you want to accomplish within your time here at high school? And what are things that you want to accomplish in your lifetime? And how can I today help you get there? We talk about engagement and how it's important to be involved in your school community and build trust and relationships with other people, to flourish within a school building and a school environment. This is hard to do during a global pandemic. COVID-19 has certainly created restrictions and barriers to some of these PERMA contributing factors. They've created restrictions to our ability to engage within our school community, to create positive relationships within, with other students and adults in our building. And with a loss of experience and opportunity, meaning and accomplishment and positive emotions start to hurt as well. However, COVID-19 certainly has created restrictions and barriers, but they have not restricted happiness in itself. Happiness can still exist even in the darkest of places, because happiness is something we experience and we can create and we can control within our daily lives. And that's something that I go into my field work every day with the belief and conviction that even in the darkest of times and even in the darkest of places, we can still find positive emotions. We can still find ways to engage with our school and with our communities. We can still find positive relationships. Yes, they might be through a Google Meet screen, but they're still there and they're still people. We can still find meaning and have goals for ourselves. But there are restrictions. Our current global crisis has created an unprecedented amount of loneliness and isolation, within K through 12 students, within higher education students, and within our general community. There is a general concern for health for ourselves and others. There is certainly a loss of opportunities and experiences. One of the most profound is, I believe, COVID-19 has made us fearful of others, being around others that we used to love and engage with and have positive relationships with. We're now fearful to be around because every time we're around these people, we run the risk of getting sick or giving that sickness or spreading that sickness to somebody else. Certainly, there's fiscal stress. People have lost their jobs, lost their income. And for a substantial amount of the population, there is grief and loss among folks who have lost people to COVID-19. But again, even in the darkest of places, we can find the ingredients to happiness. Because loneliness, concern for health, a fearful of others, fiscal stress, grieving and loss do not restrict our ability to fill these other buckets. It's important to note here that the skills to help us cope with distress, anxiety, depression are not the same strategies and skills that we use to increase happiness on a daily basis. Certainly, we need to work on this area. We need to work on these good coping skills so that we can reach an equilibrium point to help us one day increase our well-being. But the strategies are not the same. In Sonia Lewandowski's book, The How of Happiness, she suggests 12 intentional activities we can do on a daily basis: expressing gratitude, cultivating optimism, savoring life's joys, learning to forgive, taking care of your body. And these are all things that we can incorporate into our work as practicing school counselors, and all intentional activities we can do on a daily basis to help our students. So in summary, there is much to be done and much work to be done to start to incorporate positive psychology and happiness education into our comprehensive school counseling programs, even during global crisis. I'd encourage you to talk about some of these theories and some of these models and some of these intentional activities that we can do within classroom lessons or with individual counseling sessions or within group work to give students a good tool belt, to give them a good foundational skill set to practice happiness-increasing activities. And we need to incorporate these into our conversations across the domains of school counseling, in academic achievement, in social emotional learning, in college and career readiness. Because certainly, each one of those hinges on the student's ability to see themselves positively and to have a positive vision for themselves in their capacity, in their ability, and in their ambition for the future. I want to encourage you to encourage your students to practice some of these activities and to engage in positive mindset. And lastly, let us not forget that happiness exists even in the darkest of places. Because happiness is an experience that we can create for ourselves. It is not something that we pursue. It is not something that we have to go and find, but it is something we can create. And is certainly within our control. Thank you.